All right, off we go. Can you hear me okay, Peggy?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so this is going to be, the Father has been putting it on my heart for over a year, a message on health. Actually, ever since we lost our dear, for those new people, we lost a dear Jolene to cancer. She was in her prime, 50, I don't know, but she was not advanced in years by any stretch. And then it's just, there's no point in getting, we've had one health scare after the other in this congregation, and it's been, and with the help of actually Sister Sarah, who's not here, because Kit has all, problem after problem. Sarah wanted me to put together a thing, and then I started a program early this year in January that it's called Energized Health. Any of you guys are interested in it, and I'm going to divulge something. You guys are going to be like, what? It cost me $6,000, and I'm here to tell you it is the best $6,000. It was worth. It put me on. It gave me a blueprint for health that I will take to my dying day, which hopefully is 120, the day that Moshe died. The three prefaces before I begin. One is, Al and I have a little unwritten rule, maybe that you don't know, Al, that when I do the message, Al, you got to do the Aaronic prayer, because for two reasons. One, my voice will probably be shot. And two, I love your version. I love Brother Skip's version, too. Yeah. I do a version that her and Kit brought over for, was it Bethalel?
We learned it at Bethalel.
Anyway, Al, you do the Aaronic prayer. And then number two, I'm going to say a lot in this message about what we call refined carbohydrates, which are probably worse than crack when you get right down to it, okay? The reason I'm bringing this up now, this is in no way, shape, or form. I'm begging you all, please, to bring anything into our oneg, okay? Oneg, it means delight in Hebrew, okay? We bring a lot of sugary snacks in our oneg, okay? And I like them. I love them.
He's like, that's his first
okay?
baby.
So trust me, even the program that I did, it's strict dietary wise, but there is no program you do where your body can't take a meal off every 2 weeks. Okay, there's not. My body doesn't even know this oneg happens because when you become a well-oiled machine, you can have that key lime pie every 2 weeks. Okay, so don't. My whole point is, I hope this doesn't change what we all bring to the oneg from now on, okay? And this is hopefully changes your behavior the other 13 days of the week, okay?
Hey, if it sounds good, I bring it.
Right.
Yes.
Just do it.
What'd you say?
If it sounds good and it looks good,
There we
I
go.
buy it.
So just for the
Or I'll
oneg,
fix it,
please,
whatever.
people, don't be bringing, all kinds of fancy health food, and keep the oneg the same.
We don't want to eat cardboard.
Yes, exactly. Someone wants to join the call. Okay, that's them. Admit. Hold on, this is Mara. Okay, they're there. Okay. All right, so I was just getting my beginning. I said this is a message on health. Yah's been putting it on my heart. Sister Sarah has kind of reinforced it, because hopefully her and Kit, we can maybe do something like this again next year when they're here. Because the very thing I did at Sarah's behest, she's lost a precious son-in-law and can't be here and therefore Kit can't be here to join. Okay, so two prefaces, and I'm going to tell this to you two as well, that I said. One is Al's going to be doing the Aaronic prayer. You'll love his version, Mara, if you've never heard it. It's beautiful. Number two, I'm going to talk a lot of dietary stuff today. This does not affect our oneg, okay? Whatever you're doing dietarily, you can take a meal off every 2 weeks, okay? I was just telling them, my body doesn't even notice when I do the oneg every 2 weeks. So don't let this change what you bring to the oneg. And then number three, this, of all our teachings, we all contribute. For you, Jessamar, it's all more of a discussion than a teaching, even when Al's doing the teaching. So he'll get to a verse, you have a question, just blurt it out, okay? But this especially is more of a conversation. Now, what I'm getting at is we have a number of people here in the medical field. So the twins, their mother, and Mara specifically, please, I am not a doctor, Okay, so please chime in. Okay, or just stop me if I'm in the middle. I might have gotten something wrong. So with that, let's begin. Everybody ready? Okay. The first thing I kind of wanted to do is a little exhortation of the Father in this amazing creation he's made. Okay, so we could talk about this like in an esoteric way or just a straight up scientific way. What do you guys think is the most amazing creation? And we've got these telescopes that can see out billions of light years away. Just from a complexity, the way it works together, what would you guys venture to say? I'm pretty much giving up the answer in my
human body.
In my even asking. It's the human body, and there's really not even close. Even animals. The animals are mind-boggling too. So I did a little thing. I was trying to find something that would just give glory to the human body and what an insane creation it is. And I found one here. But before I get into this, we are a collection. And this is, just really blows the mind to get it. We're collections of trillions of cells. Each of those cells is a city. Okay, and when I say a city, I mean more, not less, more complex than New York City. They have a police department when there's intruders, or you can say a military when there's intruders that aren't welcomed in that cell. And I'm not going to get into the complexity of the human cell that we could be. By the way, we could be here for days talking about the human body. But they have a waste department, just like New York City, okay, that gets rid of waste. They have a government. Our cells, all trillions upon trillions of them, is a little city. So I just thought I would bring that up, which is amazing in and of itself. But anyway, I'll start with a little refutation of evolution. So as I just mentioned, what's the most complex, ingenious thing in the universe? This is a really cool, this is just an exhortation on our body, and then I'll get started on a few verses about the human body, and then we're going to get into actual things we can do to have a well-oiled machine, to an owner's manual discussion on how we can get our bodies working the way that Yah designed them to work. Okay? So, what's the most ingenious thing in the universe? I just said it. A strong case and a scientific case can be made for the human body. Our bodies are composed of amazingly complex organs like the eye, the kidney, the liver. The human brain itself makes the most advanced computer look like Tinkertoy, and it really does, by magnitudes. And we've got computers now that would blow the mind. The most powerful were used by NASA. Our brain is millions of fold more powerful. Millions. Million times more powerful. Not like a million more bits of information. A million, whatever that bits is, multiply it by millions. All of this is mind-blowing to me. What makes the things we can do amazing? Let's take a simple example from the world of sports to see the complexities that human can make look so simple. The wonders of catching a ball. So this is an outfielder here. Okay, baseball is a popular American sport. Consider the complex equations. An outfielder must intuitively figure out just to catch a fly ball. First, he must focus on the pitcher and the batter and be aware of the exact time the pitcher throws the ball and the time the batter hits it. He watches with his eyes, which send this information to his brain. Then the information gets to the brain. It must immediately interpret what has happened. Brain HQ, a Harvard site, explains, solving the problem of converting light into ideas, of visually understanding features and objects in the world is a complex task far beyond the abilities of the world's most powerful computers. Vision requires distilling foreground, background, recognizing objects presented in a wide range of orientations, and accurately interpreting spatial cues. The neural mechanisms of visual perception offer rich insight into how the brain handles such computationally complex situations. Many tens of thousands of bits of information are being sent to the eye and the brain to interpret what the eye has sensed, the wonders of the brain. Think about the amount of, this is only a few pages by the way, think about the amount of information the brain must process second by second. We have senses throughout our body that tells us if something is wrong. The number of synapses and cells in our brains has been compared to the number of stars in the universe. I'll say that again. The number of synapses, neural connections in our brain, has been compared to the number of stars in the universe. There are over 400 billion synaptic junctions in our brain tissue. The number of synapses and cells in our brains has been compared to the number of stars in the universe. As we watch a fly ball through the air, the outfielder has only completed the first task that he must accomplish before he can catch the ball. Now he needs to interpret all this information and decide what to do. Does he run left? Right. By the way, this isn't in your thing. We'll start with your handouts. This is just me. We'll get to your handouts when we start with the scriptures in a second. After the outfielder's brain has interpreted and translated the message from the eyes, it must now send message to the legs in order to run for the ball. Study.com explains neurons are nerve cells, or cells found in the nervous system. These are specialized cells designed to stimulate other cells in the body in order to communicate. These cells are excitable, which means they function by using electrical stimulation. Through this electrical message, known as action potential, neurons are able to initiate action in the cells that they target. This is just insane stuff when you really think about it. The human leg. And there are many muscles that must receive the messages and work together precisely in order to catch the ball. The following anatomy lesson helps make this point. The powerful muscles in the hip, buttocks, and pelvis actuate the flexible ball and socket hip joint. The anterior muscles, such as the quadriceps, femoris, ellipsois, and sartorius, excuse me if I got any of them wrong, work as a group that flex the thigh and the hip and extend the leg at the knee. Posterior muscles, such as the hamstrings and gluteus maximus, produce the opposite motion, extension of the thigh and the hip, and flexion of the leg and the knee. Lateral muscles, such as the gluteus medius, abduct the thigh and the hip, while the medial groin muscles abduct the thigh. All of these muscles group provide powerful contractions to propel the body while making fine adjustments to maintain the body's posture and balance. Located inferior to the knee are a number of muscles that move the ankle, foot, and toes. The calf muscles, including the gastrocnemius and soleus, join to form the strong calcaneal Achilles tendon to the heel and attach to the calcaneus bone in the heel. These muscles contract the plantar flex of the foot, such as when standing on your tiptoes. The flex of the toes. Shin muscles, such as the tibius anterior, the exterior digitorum longus, all these Latin names, dorsiflex and foot and extend the toes. Again, there are dozens of muscles that must work together, or our outfielder will just fall down and the ball will hit the ground. Remember, the brain must continually interpret and compute where the ball is and where the fielder is. It must calculate how fast the ball is going, how fast the outfielder is running, and how close to the fence it is so he doesn't get hurt. The amazing anatomy of the knee. There's a graphic of it. It's really, really cool. I had knee surgery when I was younger for basketball, and so I know a little bit about that. But anyway, Innerbody.com explains the knee joint is one of the strongest and most important joints in the human body. It allows the lower leg to move relative to the thigh while supporting the body's weight. Movements at the knee joint are essential to many everyday activities, including walking, running, sitting, and standing. Without a functional knee, we would all be crippled. Yet Yah has designed the knee to have the incredible capacity for movement and for strength. The knee must support the weight of the body. Sadly, it can be very painful and disabling when it is damaged. The joint-forming surfaces of each bone are covered in a thin layer of hyaline cartilage that gives the extremely smooth surface and protects the underlying bone from damage. Between the femur and the tibia is a figure 8-shaped layer of tough, rubbery fibrocartilage known as the meniscus. I tore my meniscus before, so I know about that. When they take it out, they put it in a little jar. So I put my little meniscus. You ever had that surgery?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Man.
It's an athlete's thing. We know, right? What an amazing, helpful design feature to have special layer of cartilage to cover the bones so they smoothly slide over each other. Remember that all of the muscles must have precise information given to them. They must only pull to the certain level. Doing the math. Finally, 1.25 more pages, guys. Finally, the brain must intuitively solve a very advanced mathematical equation, determine where the ball is going to come down, the speed of the ball, the distance it will travel, the speed of the outfielder must also be considered. These equations are complicated and thousands of calculations must be made every millisecond of time. Making it look easy. Yeah, Yah made it all look easy. At last, the outfielder puts up in his arm and catches the ball. But this is not simple either. There are many muscles in the arm that must work together precisely in order for the outfielder to lift up his arm at the right time and the correct angle. How anyone could ever really believe these complicated abilities to make these complex maneuvers just developed by chance? I'll say one thing real quick, I'll back up. I have a degree of mechanical engineering from Auburn University. There was a robotics department there. I took design from one of the most brilliant men, Dr. Stern, Elliot Stern. Oh my gosh. And robotics was just starting then in the early 90s, and he mentioned, I mean, some of the students were asked, because we did some advanced stuff in robotics, and he says, guys, you have, like, because one student said something along the line, well, how hard could it be? He's like, you have no idea how hard it can be. The complex movements, just what I'm doing now. He's like, it's millions of things. You cannot fathom it, all the different things that go into it. Anyway, the Apostle Paul wrote in Romans 1:19 through 20, for since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. The human body's incredibly complex design is powerful evidence of a creator. Let's imagine that someone found a computer on Mars. Would anyone really try to say that the computer had evolved? When we see complex machines on Earth, we know that they have been designed by someone who put a lot of thought into creating them. So when we discover the incredible complexity of all life on Earth, why is it that many rule out the possibility of intelligent design? Shouldn't anyone with an open mind be willing to look at the evidence and consider the theories of the origin, the wonders of Yah? We have only considered the incredibly complex functions that must be performed for the outfielder to catch the ball. There are a myriad of other functions that the brain and the human body perform daily. Thousands of books have been written about how the brain, heart, lungs, etc. in the human body work. The deeper you look into these amazing facts about the human body, the more convinced you can be that the intricate details and awesome abilities that are purposefully designed. The miracles of the human body inspired this poetry by the psalmist David. And I was going to get into this verse. For you formed my inward parts. You covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works that my soul knows very well. We believe that if you examine the evidence, you will conclude the same. So, verses about the body. I just mentioned that one. It's not an amazing amount other than the creation week itself, and I don't get into that into Genesis, and neither does our Creator. I think there's at the ending in the book of John where he says, if I was really to get into all the things Yeshua did, I could write books and books and books about it. But I gave you this, in other words, his aforementioned gospel as a witness, so enough for you to know that this is the Messiah. And I think it's the same thing on the human body. I mean, the Bible is not a biology book, but there are a few verses, and the one I was just mentioned is Psalm 139, and this is where you started on your sheet. For you formed my inward parts, you wove me in my mother's womb. I'll stop there. You wove me in my mother's womb. How many people know that DNA is a program? Like literally a program. Anybody ever studied that? It's a program. There's 4 basic proteins: adenine, cytosine, guanine, and thymine, and they form together a chain, and it goes up, and it's called a double helix, is the shape of it, and it's got trillions and trillions and trillions of bits of information. Now, did he feel the need in the psalmist to say this through David? No. I wove you in your mother's womb is exactly what's that talking about. As soon as that sperm meets that egg, he forms a new you, a new us, a unique being that if lived right and operated right is going to be in a kingdom as a priest and a king one day, which is more mind-blowing stuff, and get a whole new body like Yeshua's, which we're not going to get into today because we could only imagine, right? I will give thanks to you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works, and my soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in secret and skillfully wrought in the depths of the earth. Wow. I wrote down below that, the eyes have seen the uninformed substance, and your book were in your book were all written. You know, I don't know, man. The book, it's the DNA kind of is a book. I mean, it's a book. Each of our DNA is a book of who we are. You know, if I spoke Yah's language, I could go into Stephanie's DNA and I could tell you everything about Stephanie. I mean, that's more than our little brains can do, but it's a book. And yet there was not one of them. Jeremiah 1:5. Before I formed you in the womb, there we go, there's DNA again, I knew you. By the way, a lot of his prophets, Yah uses that language. I formed you in your mother's womb. And by the way, the preachers really in any church, the Catholic Church, even in the Babylonian Church, one of the things that all the preachers will use, those preachers that actually have the guts to preach about abortion, there's not many even anymore that do, but they'll refer to all of those verses. And there's, gosh, a dozen of them. Jeremiah is just one of them. I formed you in your mother's womb. And again, I don't even believe I know. That's when Glenn becomes Glenn. That's when Mara became Mara. You know, 9 months before your birthday, he formed you in your mother's womb, right? Before I formed you, and before you were born, I consecrated you. I've appointed you a prophet. Now, he didn't make all of us prophets, but he did form us all in our mother's womb. 1 Corinthians 6:19. Or do you not know that your body is a temple of the Ruach, who is in you, whom you have from Yah, and that you are not your own? So one of the things that happened, and this isn't to get into the science of the fall or anything, what happened with Chava and Adam, but we had to be repurchased, is the bottom line. And so basically, you know, there's a term in sports, I own you, man. Well, he owns us. So we were bought with a price. So our bodies really are not our own. So it behooves us to take care of them and treat them like the amazing machines they are, right? Finally, Psalm 104:15. And I'm going to get into some of these. And wine to gladden a man's heart, and oil to make his face shine, and bread to strengthen a man's heart. Could wine really make the face shine and bread strengthen a man's heart? I'll get into a little bit of that. Well, regarding the bread, in an article in Healthline when listing 9 benefits of eating whole grains. Now, this is kind of where I'm going to stop, and we're going to truly dig into a little bit of this. Our ancestors, and I don't care where you're from, whether it's Europe, Africa, Asia, doesn't matter. None of our ancestors ate refined carbs. None of them.
They didn't have
None
no
of
such
them.
thing.
They didn't exist. Okay, so when
Even our
your
great-grandparents
ancestors, Josimar, ate bread in Africa probably, or yours in Europe probably, and yours in Venezuela, wherever they were, it was, when the Bible here is talking about bread, it is talking about whole grain bread. They didn't know anything else. It wasn't white bread. It didn't exist.
That didn't happen much later.
And
It's bleached, isn't it?
yeah, exactly. And for the Jamaicans, we have a few Jamaicans here, and the Colombians in the crowd, they didn't have white rice either. It was the husk was on the rice.
Right.
Okay, and it's a lot better for you that way. Okay, there's, you know, complex carbs are very good for you, including high in nutrients and fiber. Lower your risk of stroke, reduce risk of obesity, lower your risk of type 2 diabetes, supports healthy digestion, reduce chronic inflammation. Again, this is whole grain bread, guys. This isn't the kind you get at Burger King or at Subway or anywhere else, okay? May reduce risk of cancer, linked to reduced risk of premature death. So I guess the psalmist knew what he was talking about. Regarding oil, in an article in Healthy Living regarding oil and the way it relates to the skin, remember it says it'll make your face shine. Olive oil has a rich history in anti-aging therapy and longevity enhancers. Cleopatra had a faith in the restorative powers of olive oil, so much so that she chose to bathe in it. Legend has it that olive oil baths were responsible for soft golden glow illuminating from her skin. Today, a wide variety of cosmetic products and natural remedies contain olive oil. Cosmetics, soaps, herbal therapies, and all use of olive oil and its anti-inflammatory benefits. The more we can do to control inflammation. Half this talk is going to be about inflammation, guys. We just stop here. it's over 90% of, I will guarantee you, of the people we lift up and the sicknesses we have, and that this one's sick and that one's sick, and can you pray for her? And I do, and we all do. I would be willing to bet have their roots in inflammation. Period. And a lot of that has its roots in what we put in our body and how much we, okay? None of this is complicated. Well, it's complicated when you get to the molecular and cellular level, but it's not as far as, how you operate the owner's manual. When applied directly to the skin, olive oil absorbs deep into the pores. Rub some olive oil into your skin and you will find that it leaves no oily residue, the same way creams might. Massage with olive oil relieves pain and stress-related fatigue while clearing the skin of environmental toxins. Regular topical and olive oil keeps your skin glowing and reduces the appearance of wrinkles. I just got into that just to kind of prove how the Bible knows what it's talking about. Bread for your heart and oil for your skin, for your glow. Some of the other benefits of olive oil, I do recommend always having olive oil in your home. It is absolutely an age-old, and actually, if I remember correctly, what's the name of our ministry, Al?
The olive tree.
Other benefits of olive oil: it balances your cholesterol, helps prevent cardiovascular disease. I could go into these more in depth. Improves metabolic function. Powerful anti-inflammatory properties. We will address that later. In fact, here coming up next. Helps prevent gallstones. Possible cancer prevention. I had the full explanation of all these, but I'm not going to do that. Infuses your cells with polyphenols. Okay, so this also helps your skin. Get some olive oil, people. That's a start.
Get the good
right
kind,
now,
though.
the diet stuff. Relieves hypertension. Okay, anybody who has a high blood pressure running in their family. Distributes energy evenly, high and low from simple carbs. Consuming carbohydrates as a source of metabolic fuel is an inefficient way of providing the body, and this is now getting into kind of the main crux of this talk, is an inefficient way of providing the body with energy. While carbs like whole grains, sprouts, and fruit have tremendous benefits to your diet, most people don't consume enough of them. Instead, the Western diet opts for wheat or flour-based products such as white bread and pastry products, and pasta and white rice. These foods taste great, but they have low nutritional value and a high GI value. Eating these kinds of refined carbs plays havoc with your blood sugar levels. Sugar crashes in the mid-afternoon. After lunch, the typical result of consuming too many refined carbs. By the way, how many people work a job where you're sitting, where you sit? Yeah. How many people, have lunch?
We have
How many
lunch.
people in the mid-afternoon ever?
I can't
Anybody
do
ever-
that. No, I can't do that. They would fire me if I did that.
Sorry has a question
No,
here.
it depends what you eat. I find
Yeah.
out that if you eat a lot of carbs after noon, you are like a when you go to sleep.
It's like 4 hours.
That's the way.
You got it.
Yep.
I cannot eat anything with carbs because I fall asleep.
Yep.
But I was going to say something. When we went to Israel, it's a place, Akko, and over there is a village. In that village, they make us wear these all ages clothes, and they made us to make the bread, the way that they were doing before.
In the old days.
And
yeah.
the oil, they put all the oil in our face and everything,
Yeah.
because it says that this is very healing, is restoration, this restore your
Yep.
skin, this. You remind me of those things. I say, oh my God. this is
100%.
Mhm.
All of the medicines to make us happy and healthy exist right here. We don't need big pharma. We don't.
I hate
Um,
it.
I think, go ahead, Al.
I mean, what it says about the wine, the oil, and the bread, actually there are spiritual things that actually are good for
Mhm.
the inside. And if they're good for the spirit, it will come out into your.
It will come out into the
body
body.
as well.
And there's a spiritual component to everything. I mean, nobody more than Al has taught me that, but you know, we manifest here in the physical. I think, you know, another thing, guys, so there's two aspects to this. We've all heard this like a hammer on the head, but it's diet and exercise, right? That's really what it comes down to. I think a lot of, even when you go to the Torah, it's not a lot, other than Leviticus 11, about what not to eat. And the cool thing is none of us, you know, let me just say, none of us do that. Most of us eat clean food. I mean, it's you know, we don't eat the sea scavengers, which I used to love, the shrimp, the oysters, and all that stuff, and the scallops, because they're bottom feeders. They've got all kinds of nasty stuff in them because Yah made them to be living garbage disposals. The same thing with a pig. It's a living garbage disposal. You don't eat it, because then you eat what's in what they're eating, okay? But I think there wasn't a whole lot of talk. There's one instance of talk of exercise in Scripture, and I think it's the reversal of this, of our own knowledge. As they say, the wisdom of man. There's a way that seems right to the man, but the end thereof is the ways of death. I think that's manifested in the physical as well, because there's one time, and it's actually during the curse, soon after Adam and Eve, you know, did their thing, which, by the way, and I tend to agree with Al, it might have been planned all along. Well, guess what else was planned? He said, by the sweat of your brow. What did he say to the man? Okay, from now on, you're going to eat by the sweat of your brow. Well, what is the sweat of your, how are you going to get sweat on your brow?
By
You actually have to exercise,
exercising.
don't you? I think we're living in the first, I'm not going to say generation, because it might go back a generation or two, maybe since the early 20th century. But certainly the last 100 years, where you don't have to exercise to work. That's, our ancestors would have been like, what the heck?
They
is
worked
going
in the fields.
Imagine if, so let's look at even what we would consider today to maybe even be a white collar job. Let's look at Matthew. He was a tax collector. They weren't very revered, were they? But, you know, you look at what he did, even his job involved going from, I mean, he had to walk from town to town to town to town.
They always
to town
walked.
to
They
town.
didn't have a, yeah.
Could you imagine if Matthew, if kind of like Yah showed John visions of the future and Revelation, in which that's a very spiritual book, but I absolutely believe John saw things, i.e. like maybe even nuclear fallout, that he didn't know how to describe. So his best way, well, there were stars were falling. You know, I do believe he saw things that his little brain couldn't comprehend. Okay, but could you imagine if Matthew saw a modern day tax collector? This is basically, so we wonder why we're falling apart, why we have to pray for this one, why this one has cancer, why this one has diabetes, because this is the human 90% of certainly Americans and mostly around the world. You wake up, you brush your teeth, you get in the car, you drive. This is what Matthew would be watching. He's some guy goes to the IRS. He sits down, and he does this for 8 hours. I mean, could you imagine Matthew would be like, this guy sucks. He hasn't even talked to anybody.
Hey, they don't talk to you at the IRS.
He just sits in a chair
So
all
you're
day.
done
I gotta
your
go
house.
from
Yeah,
town to
you
town.
know
This
it
guy's
all.
a terrible tax collector. Meanwhile, this guy's probably collected from 10,000 people because
Yeah.
he didn't know what the heck this thing in front of him is. But that guy is also dying on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
If he doesn't go to the gym, or if he doesn't go play hoops like I used to in my 20s, or if he doesn't do something to get the sweat on his brow. See, by saying by the sweat of your brow, it truly is inferring the sweat of your brow. If you're not sweating for your brow, you're not functioning. You're not functioning correctly. So that would be my first exhortation to everybody, and I'm going to get into this later.
Yeah.
You gotta move the body, and you gotta move it regularly. Regularly. We all have to incorporate exercise. If you have a job, which is most of us, even if it's a job in the medical field where you go, I get it, nurses do a little more exercise, they go from room to room, I get it, but that's not, first off, you're in an air conditioning environment, okay, so that's not that much exercise, okay, so even you people who like walk from room to room in your job, that's not, you know, it's
The station a child down the hall down.
You need to break a sweat. You need to get your heart, and I'm going to discuss that in a second. Can I bring my watch? Crap. Yes, I did. Okay. I'm going to discuss some cool tools that can help you with that. Okay. So now let's get into the crux of this.
Yay.
And this is, go for it, Claudia.
When you go to Israel, you see all the geography requires that you be skillful. You go over there, you have to walk a lot. You have to climb and go down, and you have, it's just like, and I say, that's why the armies were so skillful. Because when you read the word, you see how skillful were those armies.
100%.
They require that, to see from the distance. And they knew it, how to get there. It's just like, it's amazing the way that is designed. And it requires effort.
Oh, let me tell you something else. How many of you guys, and we all have seen pictures that maybe your grandmother, your abuela had of your great-grandparents? How many have seen, raise your hands, how many of them were fat?
One of them.
That was probably
But this was in
When
the,
that guy was just starting into modern life.
this was in the 40s, 30s, you know, type.
Oh,
so
I
they
mean,
were already eating all
I
that
mean
processed crap.
I mean turn of the last century. I mean great-grandparents. You ever seen-
Well,
I-
yeah, that was my great-grandma.
I have a picture of my my great-grandparents, it's, I think
But
it's
the
like,
other side
maybe when
wasn't.
photography was first coming out.
Yeah. They won't be able to hear you.
Oh,
She was a
how
big-
many of you guys have seen pictures of your great-grandparents?
Tons of
And I asked them to say, how many of them were fat? Other than none of them.
Well, one of them, but maybe she had a.
I was just saying, I have a picture of my great-grandparents, and the women back then, and this is another veer-off conversation, they dressed a little more modestly, so I can tell from her face she was not fat. But the man, this dude was ripped. I mean, he was wearing a suit, but I mean, you could see this guy just had I guarantee he was like 10% body fat, and that's probably everybody back then. And it's probably because he didn't eat a lot. You know, a lot of it probably starved, not starving, but he didn't eat. You know, they didn't eat for luxury back then. Bottom line, the whole key of it, our ancestors, every one of them, unless there was a king, and here's the funny thing, that's why, remember, you guys ever hear about King Henry VIII? He was a fat slob. Well, it's because Henry VIII was what all people are today. He just sat, but people served him, right? And it was like a cool thing to have refined carbohydrates. By the way, I was debating on getting into the history of sugar and the history of refined carbohydrates and where they came from. It comes from India. It was in the BC, but none of that's important. All you need to know, go ahead.
I was going to tell you, because I've studied extensively that part of history, Henry VIII did not get that way until after he had a severe accident and was not able to exercise.
There we go.
See,
There we go. But a lot of kings were,
They were.
but just it's not just Henry VIII. You picture when you see drawings of kings, they were fat. Well, they were like all 90% of the workforce today, because 90% of our workforce gets to an office, sits down, and presses some keys.
right.
Right? And that's not going to cut it for the body. It's not. So, let's get to the crux of this whole matter. Inflammation. How many of you really, I'm sure you've all heard of it, how many of you have actually could give me a good medical definition? I'm about to do it, but have you heard, Jussimar, have you heard of inflammation and how bad it is? But do you really know what it is?
No.
Okay, here we go. This is important for all of us to know, because many of our group suffer from it. And we're not here, this is an exhortation of the body. This is so that we change our ways. This is so we become healthy. And it's got to end. And there's ways to end it. Okay, medical definition. A localized protective response elicited by injury or destruction of tissue which serves to destroy, dilute, or wall off both the injurious agent and the injured tissue. Okay. The inflammatory response can be provoked by physical, chemical, and biogenic agents, including Mechanical trauma, exposure to excessive amounts of sunlight, rays, radioactive materials, corrosive chemicals, all kinds of that stuff in our food. And again, I'm not here to get too complex. Mara, feel free to jump in, or Stephanie or Sarah. And there'll be time for everybody to jump in at the end, but let me just give the definition. Chemical to stream infection agents, other pathogenic microorganisms. Although these infectious agents can produce inflammation, infection and inflammation are not synonymous. A classic signs of inflammation are heat, redness, swelling, pain, and loss of function. These are manufactured attestations of the physiologic changes that occur during the inflammatory process. The three major components of this process are changes in the caliber of the blood vessels and the rate the bloods flow through the hemodynamic changes. 2, increased capillary permeability. And 3, leukocytic exudation. See, I knew this could get really complex, so we're going to try to get it down to the basics and how to prevent it forever, like till the day you die, and like all of us get rid of any inflammation we have. Hemodynamic changes begin soon after injury and process at varying rates. According to the extent of injury, they start with dilation and arterioles and opening of new capillaries and venular beds of the area. This causes an accelerated flow of blood, accounting for the signs of heat and redness. Next follows increased permeability and the microcirculation, which permits leakage and protein-rich fluid out of the small blood vessels into the extravascular fluid compartment, accounting for the inflammatory edema. Don't worry, we're almost done here. If anybody gets anything out of this, good. We're going to get to the cause and treatments in a second, but I just wanted to give some of the medical stuff. Leukocytic exudation occurs in the following sequence. First, the leukocytes, am I saying that right, Mara? Leukocytes? Okay, the leukocytes move to the endothermial lining of the small blood vessel, margination, and line endothelium in a tightly packed formation. Eventually, these leukocytes move through the endothelial spaces and escape to the extravascular space. There's going to be a test, guys, so I hope you're all remembering this. Okay. Once they are outside the blood vessels, they are free to move by chemotaxis and are drawn to the site of injury. Accumulations of neutrophils and macrophages in the area of inflammation act as neutralized foreign particles or phagocytes. Chemical mediators of the inflammatory process include a variety of substances originating in the plasma of the cells of uninjured tissue, and possibly from the damaged tissue. So basically, let me just kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, Stephanie, Sarah, anybody, Mara, inflammation is basically your body, it's a kind of a trauma response by your body that needn't not be. And so your body's kind of harming itself to help itself type of thing. Proteins that interact with antigen-antibody complexes and mediate immunologic injury and inflammation in the clotting system that increases vascular permeability and chemotactic activity in the leukocytes. Prostaglandins which can reproduce several aspects of inflammatory process. Neutrophil products, lymphocyte factors, and other mediators such as slow reactant substance of anaphylaxis of endogenous pyrogen. These scientific words, I swear. Hormonal response. Some hormones such as cortisol have an inflammatory action and limits inflammation to a local region, while others of the pro-inflammatory. Thus, the endocrine system has a regulating effect on the process of inflammation so that it can balance and benefit the body's attempts to recover from injury. Over time, okay, so here we go. Here's the good stuff, guys. And then this is going to kind of lead into the whole conversation of how do we get these machines working the way Yah designed them to work, okay? Causes and treatments, cures to inflammation. Over time, chronic inflammation can trigger your immune system to attack healthy tissue and organs in your body. As I was saying earlier, your body's attempt to heal itself can actually hurt itself. This is what happens with the COVID. It's basically, as people have referred to, it's a cytokine storm. Your immune system is overreacting. So anyway, when left untreated, prolonged chronic inflammation can increase your risk of diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. Gee, the big three. Only the things that kill everybody, right? And rheumatoid arthritis. Since inflammation signs and symptoms often go undetected, it's important to have regular doctor's visits and inform your physician if you're experiencing signs of possible inflammation. Acute inflammation can often be treated with non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. They're going to get into a lot of this dopey drugs. I'm going to get into what Yah says to the stuff that's been around forever, plants, fruits, grains. Such as aspirin or ibuprofen. These drugs can alleviate short-term pain caused by acute inflammation, but should not be used long-term. Alternatively, chronic inflammation is typically treated with corticosteroids like cortisol, which can be prescribed by your doctor. Corticosteroids come from the form of creams, ointments, tablets or injections, and should be taken routinely for weeks, sometimes months, until symptoms lessen or subside. Lifestyle modifications. Finally, we're here. All of that just to get to this. Did anybody have anything to add? Because I'm yapping away over here. Anybody? Okay. Your risk of chronic inflammation is associated with a variety of health factors like diet, lifestyle, and family history. Don't forget the family history garbage. You have within you the ability to re-engineer your body despite your, we might have a family history of diabetes. You're looking at one. Family issue of heart disease. Oh, you're looking at another one. Thank God I don't have cancer in my family anywhere that I know of. And you guys might have the same. You can re-engineer your body by the decisions you make to make those factors null and void. So this is a medical journal, so they have to say family history. Anyway, I just wanted to get that in. Consider which of these lifestyle tips you can implement in your own life to avoid chronic inflammation. Eat anti-inflammatory foods. The food that you put in your body, newsflash, Captain Obvious here, is itself just as important as the vitamins and supplements you take. So I wanted to say this. Think about it, guys. If we, remember Paul Shaul, 2 Corinthians? It was 1 Corinthians. He went off on those Corinthians. They were basically getting drunk at the wine and the bread table. And then you had people who were going off and having, let's just say, affairs with their dad's wife. I mean, it's just crazy, drunken debauchery. We don't do that. But would you admit that the food that we put into our body, it's kind of like a drug. It affects your mood. It affects how you feel. It affects your metabolism. It's so we're putting stuff in our body it might not have, but it has the same illicit chemicals and reactions that go on, just like the alcohol would to the Corinthians, right?
Yeah.
Eating anti-inflammatory foods helps reduce your risk of inflammation while also promoting a healthy, balanced diet. And we're going to get to all this. Anti-inflammatory foods contains high levels of omega-3 fatty acids, which can be found in fish, tofu, walnuts, soybeans, and others. A great example of an anti-inflammatory diet, you guys might have heard of the Mediterranean diet, which focuses on fruits, vegetables, and limited carbs. I think that's what a lot of our Israelite ancestors had and ate. I think between the movement, the constant movement, you're constantly moving, you're constantly walking, you're constantly exercising to live. These people didn't have to do it out of discipline. And this anti-inflammatory diet they had is why you can see Moshe at 120. Somebody can look it up. It's obviously at the end of Deuteronomy, but it says he died full of vigor at 120. In other words, Yah just took him because he was going to be living a lot longer. I think, and this is mind-boggling to imagine, but I think Moshe at 120, I think what that means is he had full testosterone. He had the testosterone level of a young man, full of vigor. What do you think he'd be talking about? What happens to a man's, for you men, when your testosterone level goes down? Do you have more vigor or less vigor?
A lot less.
Okay, so I think that's what I think Moshe would be like a 30-year-old today. I mean, it's amazing to fathom, but I truly believe that, and I think a lot of that. Yes.
On that, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Please,
Speaking of
please.
the anti-inflammatory foods, when I had the virus, Linda brought us tuna, and it was the low mercury, it was the healthy kind of tuna in packages. And the first thing I thought when I saw it was, oh, tuna. But honestly, I mean, just because of how nauseous I was feeling.
Right.
But honestly, I yearned for that. When I started making it, it was like my body must have had so much inflammation from having this virus that I just wanted more and more. So I was so thankful, and I see that you have that down here as an anti-inflammatory.
And we're going to get far more into the anti-inflammatory foods. And please, whoever, stop me, especially you medical people, Mara, and Stephanie and Sarah, and any one of you, please. The second one, eliminate inflammatory foods. It's also important to limit or completely eliminate foods not including our ONAG.
That's good, because we have cheese pizza over here.
Good.
I probably got cheese and spinach, okay?
Foods. Yes.
I would like to respectfully disagree with you. This is just my opinion. White sugar is garbage. It's damage to the body.
Yeah.
And I appreciate what you're saying about ONAG because you want it to be special. But in my opinion, Shabbat would be the one day that I would not do white sugar.
Yeah.
We need to take care of the temple.
No, I agree. I'm one of like those many millions and tens of millions of Americans and citizens of this world that had kind of like a sugar addiction. They actually measured it was in mice. The long and the short of it is sugar is more addictive than heroin.
Yeah.
Yes,
How about that?
yes.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that. I have been doing, and I'm gonna get to what I do in a little bit, but I have been doing this lifestyle, this diet since January, like I said, and my body doesn't notice a difference if it's just once every 2 weeks. I think if I got off the horse and started having my cookies and ice cream and stuff, every night or every other night, it'd notice real quick. But you're right, Peggy. It's also important to limit foods which aggravate inflammation, such as processed sugar and fried foods. A good rule of thumb, avoid white foods, including white bread, rice, pasta, sugar, and flour. These foods are simple carbohydrates and that should be consumed in moderation. And that's why I say the moderation. Our ONAG, but I do hear what you're saying, Peggy. Exercise regularly. I'm going to get into some cool exercise possibilities that'll help. Carrying excess body weight due to fat increases your risk of inflammation. Maintaining a healthy weight not only helps prevent inflammation, but can even reverse it. To maintain healthy body weight, try committing a regular exercise schedule. I mean, some of this is just so basic. It's like, you can't even...
Well, it's not that hard when you bake. Instead of using that nasty white sugar, use dark brown sugar or some, if you're going to use it, that like turbinado sugar. And it tastes just as good.
Well, no, brown sugar is almost as bad. I hate to say it.
Really?
Yes, you don't want it. You want to stay away from sugar completely.
Well, you don't want to eat it, but I mean, if you're going to eat it, it's better to use that than
You
the
are
white stuff.
correct. Yes.
From like an anatomy perspective, I remember learning that sugar actually, when it goes into the bloodstream, it scratches your blood vessel wall and it
Ooh.
causes inflammation
I've never heard that
response.
either.
Wow.
Hey, Jay.
Yeah.
Now limit.
Hey, I just wanted to chime in on sugar. So sugar is poison, whether it's brown, light brown, green.
It's just bad.
Correct.
You can call it anything you want. It's sugar poison.
Yep.
There are some sugar alternatives that make sense, like stevia, natural sweeteners, even molasses. Natural molasses is going to be better than any kind of sugar.
Okay.
So, it's hard to let go of sugar, but as it takes about a week to detox really from sugar, where your brain stops reacting
Yep.
Believe it or not, people would be very surprised to know you're pretty much clear of the need for sugar in about a week. It's not an arduous 3-month process. It's about 7 days, 10 days, and other things feel so much better. So as we can try to just slowly weed out the sugar by
I'm going to get into those.
natural sweeteners, you will actually no longer crave sugar very quickly. It's a wonderful, amazing thing. The
Yep.
recovery that God has created in our bodies. So I just
Yep.
wanted to check on the sugar. All sugar, doesn't matter what it is, anything processed, if you buy it in the store, it's in a bag or in a box.
It's bad.
Yep. Amen.
Okay, I'm shutting up.
No, 100%. No.
Thank you. Yes.
So the first step in addressing inflammation is practicing a healthy lifestyle by eating a healthful diet and staying active. These lifestyle modifications are best approach to reducing your risk of inflammation and initiating a reversal process. If you are concerned about your risk of inflammation and think you may be already experiencing symptoms of chronic inflammation, of course, this is a medical article because it source. Talk to your doctor about blood tests so they can get you on some kind of a drug from Big Pharma and somebody can get rich.
Yeah.
Yay! And my Merck stock can go up. Yay!
Hey Jay,
Yes.
one more quick thing I should have interjected. That does not describe the naturally occurring sugars in foods that like fruit and the other
Like an
sugars
apple.
listed in
Yep.
nature.
100%.
Right.
I'm not saying go out and eat 10 bananas, but if it exists in the fruit that you're eating and you're able to eat fruit, that sugar your body can process as fuel. It is not poison. It is absolutely safe.
Yep.
Just wanted to preface natural sugar.
100%. So,
Shutting up again.
all right. So Yah's cure for inflammation. This isn't all-encompassing. Notice it has yogurt on the bottom, guys. We're not talking about the yogurt that has sugar in it. Hate to say it, but the yogurt that's actually good for you doesn't taste good.
Not the one with the Oreo
Yeah.
sprinkles.
No, you can't eat that.
What about cauliflower? It's like.
Yeah, but that's not a grain.
I know, I'm talking about vegetables.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, that's all good. That's all good. Oh, 100%.
I make that up all right.
So does anybody have, I'm going to tell you what I do and how this program worked. And this is the part, I didn't put this in my presentation because this is the part that's kind of like how bad do you want it. So I'm going to ask you guys, you can always call me, but I'm going to have to ask you to write some of this stuff down. But it will change your life if you enact some of these habits into your life forever. And maybe I can be like Moshe and be 120 playing with my great grandkids. I'm just saying. If he doesn't come first, which I think he is, the way the world's going, but that's another conversation.
Jay, I believe that the system is designed to kill you.
Yeah.
I believe
Yes.
so. They have no, they know it, that they is, this exercise, when you have time to exercise, I work like almost 60 hours every week.
Yep.
And then manage your stress is go as soon as possible, immediately, right now, go. Meals, staffing, go meetings. I said, oh my God, I'm about to lose my head.
Yeah.
And it's like stress and lack of exercise and eat so bad, whatever. It's like my friends brought all the chocolate in the world from the Halloween and we ate all that in the office and things like that because we don't have time to go outside, sit down, rest for 30 minutes. Every minute is too valuable because then we go behind.
I'm going to help you, Claudia, but you've got to do it. So this is a Shema. Believe it or not, this is a Shema teaching, presentation, whatever you want to call it. Okay, it's not hear and do like the commandments, but again, I genuinely believe at the time that Yah gave these commands from Sinai to Moshe that our ancestors, none of them were doing that. They weren't sitting all day. They weren't eating refined carbohydrates. They were, by their life, they were exercising their rear ends off, and they were eating high grain food and lean protein. Well, they were eating manna every day for 40 years, which I guarantee you, who thinks that manna probably was nutritious if Yah gave it? And
I believe it had what we needed.
Who think manna
protein
probably
and
had good
everything in it.
nutrition to it?
Yeah.
Do you think he'd give us,
No.
pastries?
No. He gave us what our body needed.
Exactly. It was probably good for you. Exactly.
Sugar
Yeah, probably didn't have refined Manna probably didn't have refined carbohydrates, and I did it.
You see, one more other thing was they grew their own food.
Right.
Grew their own food.
I'll tell you what's my biggest
So did
issue
my ancestors.
from the time I came here. I'm not a sugar guy. I'm not a sugar person. I know carbohydrates can turn into sugar. My problem has been the food, right?
Which kind?
Because of GMO and because
Oh,
of
yeah.
like
Oh,
just
yeah.
normal
They need to
whole
earth
grains. If it's not proper organic,
Yep.
they use insecticides to kill it at a certain time.
100%.
I'm
I
coming
buy
from-
all organic.
I'm
All
coming from a
organic.
place where our meat was organic, right? Our vegetables were organic. So when I came here, the first year, I started becoming very emotional
Yeah.
because it's like more estrogen,
Yeah.
was in my body. So that's what I was finding, or I'm still finding hard to process, is the actual food compared to my body.
100%. He's talking about the stuff and all the stuff that they inject in our meats. Yes. When I do myself a steak every once in a while, but make no mistake, I get it at Sprouts, and it's an organic steak. It's a grass-fed organic steak. Yummy. I do it upright. You guys got to try my steak one of these days. But anyway, so there's a reversal to all this, Claudia, that you can kind of get out of the rat race, but it involves discipline. Okay, so here's what this program I did, and none of this is anything you guys don't already know. And some of the things I actually have my little. It's like show and tell. Yay!
That's okay.
So, do we want to start with the diet or the exercise? There's two components to it. You want to start with the diet? Okay.
The diet, we know what
So-
exercise is. Don't we?
Here's what you need to do. Well, no, the exercise is important in the way that you
Yeah.
the way that you do it, because it's not just go out and play basketball
No.
after work every day. It's like I used to. It's a better. There's more to it than that. But the diet. Okay, first off, in case you haven't picked it up from the so far, you got to eliminate. Al, do you hear this? Is Al here?
I am.
You got to eliminate all white flour and sugar. Throw it out of your home.
I only eat bagels and potato bread.
No bagels.
No.
Literally.
Potato bread is good.
No, it's
No,
not.
it's not really.
No. No.
Potato.
There's bread in there. There's white flour. You've got to eliminate white flour.
It's the white flour. that
Al, I
we
promise you, potato bread has white. Mara, does potato bread have white flour in it?
Yep, and bad starch.
Yeah, Al, you got to eliminate it
But wheat is the
completely.
problem.
So here's your breakfast. What I recommend everybody do, and get it ready the night before. I do a NutriBullet every get a NutriBullet or a Ninja. Anybody use NutriBullet Ninja? Ever heard of that?
Yeah, I've heard it. Yeah.
Okay. In that NutriBullet, I put so you can go find this in Publix, you can find it in Kroger, you can find it at Sprouts, you can find it at Whole Foods. You go to your section, you've got I like the super greens, because super greens, you'll see it says super greens. It's got kale, it's got arugula, it's got spinach. Throw in some of the super greens, or if not, get your own broccoli, chop it up. Okay? Get your fruits. I recommend apples. Absolutely your purple fruits. That's a high source of antioxidants, okay? Do we want to get into the chemistry of what an antioxidant does? Just know they're good for you, because that could be a whole other conversation. It gets rid of something called free radicals in your body, okay? You want to have foods that are high in antioxidants. Your dark fruits of that, your blueberries, your blackberries. Get blueberries and blackberries. Don't be without blueberries and blackberries. Am I wrong, Mara? See? Your dark grapes, okay? So include those on some of your NutriBullet every time. Chop up an apple. Apples are tremendous for you. I get a bag of turmeric, great for your energy. Another great anti-inflammatory. I put a little bit of turmeric powder in there. You do it up. Does it taste great? No. No. I hate to tell all of you guys, this lifestyle change is not about taste. And it's not about that enjoyment you get from, I'm sorry. Are there going to be times? Yeah, it's called the ONEC every 2 weeks. That's for me. Okay? However, there is good news, Al, for us sweet tooth freaks. Okay? Man modern man, and we're going to pass this around, has really perfected sweets that aren't sweets that taste like sweets, okay? So pass this around. Every grocery store, you guys have probably seen these. Every grocery store chain, and these are just 3 of the brands.
Oh yeah.
I can tell you that
These are good.
this bad boy right here,
I've never had that one.
if I blindfolded
other
you,
one.
Justin, and I gave you a Twix, and I gave you this, and I said, which one's the real chocolate bar, you'd be like, I have no idea. I mean, you cannot tell
Those
me.
are good, the one he's showing
21
right now.
grams per.
I've
yeah,
ate that.
Pass all this around. Guys, every grocery store chain has these. So if you're a sweet freak like me, I love sweets, okay? I just do. I'm going to tell you. So, for men, that should be your breakfast every morning, all men and women. And by the way, those come in all kinds. That's just the Cinnabon, and I'm telling you, it tastes like Cinnabon. Okay, so pick your. They've got like. They're just all really good. There's so many different. There's a coconut. This one bar comes in a coconut flavor. They're fantastic. So, with men, you want to have 5 to 6, 200 to 300 calorie meals a day. I don't know who heard that, but that's what you want to do. That covers a meal. Bread, for those who like sandwiches. Remember this, remember this, remember this, if you remember anything. Because it's a cool name. He was an ex-prisoner. It's called Dave's Killer Bread. You guys heard of Dave's Killer Bread? You like sandwiches, Jerry? Dave's Killer Bread. I think Dave was a guitarist. He was some guy who was in Oregon. He was a prisoner. He was like he turned around. He's like became a Christian. Blah blah. And he retired. I don't know how he got into bread, but now he makes this bread, and it shows him playing a guitar.
They've got like flaxseed.
Anyway, yes, Dave's Killer Bread. I didn't bring my Dave's Killer Bread, but Dave's Killer Bread is a whole grain bread. There's no white flour in it at all. All your bread in your house now, Dave's Killer Bread. Okay?
Is this your bread?
That's fine. Yep, I know it. As long as there's no white flour in the bread. Okay? Become addicted to those candy bars, whatever you want to call them. Protein bars, power bars. Don't steal them, whoever stole them.
We can
You
take
can,
them.
you can
I
take.
just wrote it.
I'm just playing around. You can. I brought them for you guys. So those are just, guys. Every grocery store has the protein, the sweet protein section. Okay, those things are going to become part of literally your
Kroger's,
life.
Publix, Angel's probably all have.
Your body eats those. Your body doesn't know anything but to just burn fat. It's just straight up protein. Eating one of those is like eating a can of tuna, only it tastes a heck of a lot better. Okay?
The only thing about the protein is, this is from a medical background, you have to be careful how much protein you consume if you have kidney issues.
100%.
Yeah, so I don't know if anyone knows that. Because if you have kidney issues, you have to be careful with
Yes.
the amount.
So all of these foods I've got here on y'all's floor, just use this as your grocery list, guys. Do not have meals over 500 calories. Okay? Men, 4 to 5 meals of 2 to 3 to 400 calories per day. Then you want, and go get these. You guys are Costco shoppers, right, Al and Patty?
Yes.
Go get, it's as though, here's the cool thing, guys.
Hey, Jay.
Yep.
Mayor has something to say about Dave's Killer Bread.
Looks good, but not everybody can digest all these grains at once.
Yeah.
So there's other breads like Ezekiel Bread. Have you ever heard of Ezekiel?
Yes,
It's
she
great.
mentioned
Yes,
it.
I love it.
Sister, yeah, Ezekiel Bread too.
And those are breads that are made from sprouted grains.
Yep.
Yes.
Not everybody, especially blood type O, can digest the lectins that are in wheat and certain other grains that are probably in this bread, but this is definitely, for people that can digest grains, a very good bread.
Yes.
There are breads that have sprouted that won't have the same lectins in it.
Great point. No, keep interrupting, Mara. So Ezekiel Bread, for those of you who have more digestion issues, I have like an iron belly, so that's not an issue
I
with
used to
me.
eat the Ezekiel bread all the time.
So so use this also as guys, highly recommend get a NutriBullet. Go spend the $99 at Walmart and get a NutriBullet. You'll make, again, some greens, get some nuts, and get all kinds of fruits, put it in there, in a little turmeric powder. here's the thing, something Mara brought up that needs some emphasis here. When you make these lifestyle and food changes, you don't have the cravings anymore, and it doesn't take that long. You know, they say in the success business, the Tony Robbinses of the world, they say it takes 30 days to form a habit. It's not even 30. You'll be surprised how it's not many days, maybe a week, 2 weeks, when your body's not having those cravings anymore. Okay? So just bite the bullet and do it. Now, getting to the exercise. I've got the coolest thing for all of you, okay? First thing you need to do, and I think you can get them, on Amazon, and this is called a CE, oh no, that's just, who makes this? That's just a designation. Anyway, this is a watch. You put it on.
It's like a Fitbit.
Yeah, it's like a Fitbit watch. And you could just say heart rate watch or exercise watch on Amazon. Go on there, get it. These are like $40. So what I do when I exercise, what is the maximum fat burning heart rate you want to be at? And I'm going to explain this to you. This is why you need this. Talk to me, Linda. Talk to me, baby.
Get in front of the computer.
Okay. But I've already shown them. So here's the deal.
It's like 140.
You want for maximum fat burning, okay? For maximum fat burning, Peggy, the first thing you have to do, okay, this is very important. You say the exercise is easy, just go out and exercise. No, we're going to get very scientific about it. Don't worry about why these numbers are what they are, okay? The first thing you need to do is get your resting heart rate, okay? So keep, the first night you get one of this watch, guys, keep it next to your bedside, and the second you wake up, you need to go on and click on the heart thing. Mine is going to be a lot higher than the normal 60 or something. I think my resting heart rate's around 60. Hold on. So you'll tap it, and it'll pop up. Because I'm a little animated, my heart rate's at 99 right now because I'm up here screaming like an
Doing what
idiot,
you're
right?
supposed to.
Exactly. So, but at normal, you're going to find your resting heart rate. Okay, so you have that number, right? You get your resting heart rate. Let's say it's 60 or something like that. Okay. You want to exercise. I'm going to show you all how to do this. This is the genius of this program. You want to exercise for an hour a day between, you ready? Between 40 and 60 beats above your baseline resting heart rate. Between 40 and 60 beats above your baseline. So, if your heart rate is 60, let's do the math, you want to consistently, during that exercise, be between 60 plus 40, which is 100, or 60 plus 60, which is 120. So you want that rate to be between 100 and 120 of your heart rate constantly. So for us, I used to be an athlete, basketball or football, but no, that your heart rate's through the roof at that. That's those, believe it or not, you watch guys playing a football game, they're not burning much fat. That's not maximum fat. They're staying in tremendous cardiovascular shape. Do not get me wrong. But I'm just saying for maximum fat burning, this is the cool thing about it, by the way, guys. You don't have to go ballistic. You don't have to join the Pilates class. Anybody at any age can stay between 40 and 60 beats over your resting heart rate. And I'm going to show you the easiest way to do it in a second, okay? Okay, and then Mara, you can correct me if I'm wrong here. For the first 20 minutes, your body's just burning glycogen or your sugar, okay? So it's after that minute 21, it's actually in those last 40 minutes that you're going into maximum fat burning zone, okay? Now, how do we achieve this? Basically, you walk, okay? Now, when you first walk, you're just going to walk regular, okay? Just a standard walk. All right, you might have to walk pretty fast to get 40 to 60 beats over your baseline, okay? But what eventually you're going to do, the guys who did this program, his name was John Jubilee, he calls it the Jubilee Shuffle, but this has been going on for years. So here's the cool thing about this program that I did. and then I'm still doing, and then I'll do till the day I die. Not only are you burning fat and you're staying in cardiovascular shape, but you're building muscle. Why? Because eventually, this is the key thing to remember. You're going to be doing, I do this every morning, before maybe a lot of you even wake up. You're going to be walking completely on your tippy toes the entire time. Now, for those of you with plantar fasciitis, for the Kits of the world, if Kit was here, I know that you're going to have toe problems and leg problems. What you do, you go to Walmart, you get one of those little, they're for like $50, a little trampoline, you know the little ones that it's just a round thing, and you do it on the trampoline. That trampoline has enough give on it that it doesn't matter what kind of plantar, yes, you will not have any issues, okay? What you're doing, and I don't know the numbers, you're going to be very sore. Your quads, your glutes, your calves are going to be very sore, your butt muscles, okay, after you do this. What is happening is you're essentially building muscle. The other cool thing is when you're walking on your tippy toes, it's very easy to stay at that 40 to 60 beats over your resting heart rate. But what you're doing slowly is you're building muscle. And you're building it in what you call the large muscles. You know, they even in sports, they have small muscle sports and large muscle sports. Small muscle sports is like golf. It's really golfers. They're not that good at athletes. They just have amazing abilities with their wrists, these little small muscles. And then your large muscle sports are things like football or basketball where you're using your large muscles. So again, your core, your quads, your glutes, your hamstrings, your calves, you're putting muscle on there. So what's the key of putting all this muscle on? I don't remember the numbers. Maybe Mara knows, maybe Stephanie, I don't know. For every muscle you put on your body, you burn, and I mean just living, just walking around doing nothing, you burn, it's something like 50,000 more calories a month. You're essentially carrying dead weight when you put on a pound of muscle. So every pound of muscle, you're really, what's going on here, what all of this is going on is you're resetting your hypothalamus, okay? Your hypothalamus is your gland that basically sets your metabolism. And so when you do this, as he called it, Jubilee Shuffle, although he didn't invent it. People have been doing this for years. You're staying at a heart rate, you're burning fat, and you're building muscle. And so, hey, whoever knew, you don't have to go to the gym. You don't have to lift heavy weights. You can just walk on your tippy toes for an hour every morning. Now, last thing, I know there's a lot to remember here in the exercise. You want to do this if you want to get 3 times the benefit. You want to do this first thing in the morning before you've eaten. Good news, that does not include your coffee. And by the way, I have a sugar replacement, it's called honey. You can have your coffee.
So we can have honey?
I don't know, guys, I put cinnamon and honey in my 2 very good antioxidant things. This whole get out sugar from your, by the way, does not include honey. How cool is that?
Good.
Isn't that amazing? Something God makes through the, by the way, another, does not include honey. So you can, I personally put honey and cinnamon in my coffee, okay? And almond milk, so there goes the dairy.
Right.
But before you've had any food is when you want to do this, because here's the deal. When you exercise first thing in the morning without food, you're actually burning 3 times the amount of fat than at any other time of day. So that dude or gal who's got the discipline to go to the gym after work, you could laugh at them because they've just missed the best fat burning times of the day, which is first thing in the morning. This might involve getting up pretty early, guys. I get up at 5:30.
Honey, I get at 4:30.
This is the deal. Anything I left out? Oh, the last thing is you don't want your first meal after you exercise that hour to be 50 minutes after your exercise. You have to let your metabolism and heart rate come down, then you eat. A black cat just walked across the screen. I don't know what I'm supposed to think about that. Why are you guys trying to ruin my mojo? You got a black cat running across the screen? That's Boaz.
Oh, that's a blessed kitty then.
That's their cat named Boaz. So anyway, guys, any questions, any thoughts, anything? I'm pretty much done.
If you have sugar in your bloodstream, apple cider vinegar extracts it out of your blood.
Yeah.
So what I have in
Apple cider vinegar is huge. This, you know, This conversation could go on for days. I mean, we could do a whole, like your keys to the heaven, Al. This could be a 12-part series. I mean, the human body and all the different things, but I just wanted to try to give some basics. Did any of this help anybody?
Yep.
Did anybody pick up
Yes,
anything?
it's things I knew, but when you
Yes.
sit down and, yeah, it helps you remember what you need to do.